Hey everyone, this is Mike, and earlier today the Liveletter Part 1 for patch 5.3 for Final Fantasy XIV was live. So we got a lot of new information about the patch. We also got some information on how much it's going to be delayed. Of course, it was an approximation. I think they said around 2 to 4 weeks that it's going to be delayed from the usual schedule because of COVID-19. But they were going to assess the situation and see how much the actual delay would be, and then let us know in later times when it will actually be released. So for now, I'm just going to be talking about what was said on the content that we're going to be expecting in patch 5.3. A lot of raiders were pretty skeptical about this patch being good because of course there is no ultimate in this patch 5.3, which a lot of people were expecting until they announced that it wasn't going to be there. There's definitely going to be plenty of other content out there that will keep me playing for sure. Now, of course, it is going to be delayed, so if you want to take a break from Final Fantasy, now is the time. Or if you want to invest some time in leveling other classes or something like that, then now is basically the best time to do it, because there's going to be a little bit of content drought when it comes down to endgame until that patch 5.3 does finally release. So, what can we expect when it comes down to content? We're going to have, of course, our new main scenario quest. It's a big patch, so it's going to have new MSQ, and this is also going to be the final part of the story of the Shadowbringers storyline. So when we went into 5.0, Shadowbringers storyline started, and this MSQ is basically going to tie that story together and give it an ending. In this MSQ, we're also going to be having an instance battle. This is not going to be translated into a trial later down the line, like what they did with Memoria Misera. So this is just going to be your normal story instance dungeon thing that you're going to be doing. They did show off something that looks a lot like Ultima Weapon, so who knows, maybe that's going to be like Ultima Weapon from the first or something like that. Looks pretty cool, definitely pretty interested in that. Now, tying together with story, I also wanted to mention this one real quick, is that the A Realm Reborn storyline is going to get its rework in this patch as well. A Realm Reborn story is one of the big hurdles when it comes down to newer players trying to get into the game, because it's very lengthy. Once you reach level 46 or something like that, you're also kind of stuck when it comes down to EXP and gear and that kind of stuff, so you have to actually go grind dungeons in order to like further your storyline and that kind of stuff. So that basically is going to happen in this patch as well. It's going to be a more streamlined experience. You're going to be getting more experience points as well, so meaning that the leveling is going to be easier, and you're also going to get more gear drops and that kind of stuff from those story quests. So if you have any friends that might be interested in trying out Final Fantasy, say that basically the rework for Realm Reborn is not necessarily right around the corner, but once patch 5.3 goes live, they can jump in and experience A Realm Reborn in a much more streamlined fashion. Now, together with that, there is one more thing that I want to mention about A Realm Reborn, and that is that all of these zones from A Realm Reborn are also going to be getting flying. Now, of course, the flying is unlocked still around level 52, I think it is, or something like that. But basically, once you go into Heavensward, you unlock flying. That quest is still there and also needs to be finished in order for you to actually unlock flying in the older zones. But basically, for everyone that's already gone through A Realm Reborn and they still have to be there sometimes for hunts or specific gathering nodes or something like that, you'll now be able to fly around, which should be pretty useful. Now, one last thing when it comes down to MSQ, and this is going to be important for the MSQ that is going to be releasing in 5.3 for the Shadowbringer side of things, is that you need to have finished the Crystal Tower storyline. If you haven't finished that storyline, go do it now. You have plenty of time before the patch goes live, because otherwise you won't be able to progress through the 5.3 MSQ questing. So go do the Crystal Tower MSQ, or like the Crystal Tower quests. It's in Mordona, if I'm not mistaken, where you can go and pick it up. And then once you're done with that, you're pretty much ready to hop into the new story for Shadowbringers. Now, together with the story, because we're not done yet, we're done with MSQ, but there's going to be something else with the story, and that is that there is going to be a story-focused trial. So the next Extreme Primal that we're going to have is going to be another story-focused trial, aka it's going to be another secret for now until we finally do, like, basically go through the story and find out who it is. So they didn't give any specifics about that at all. It's probably going to be the same as Memoria Misera, where we just like find him at some place. They did mention that the MSQ trial, so to speak, is not going to be our actual Extreme Primal. So the instance from the MSQ is going to be different from the actual story Primal that we're going to be fighting as our Extreme Primal as well for that patch. So definitely looking forward to that one. As with all of the big patches, or like every main patches, we're also going to get a new dungeon, which is going to be taking place in Lakeland. They showed a little picture of it, but they didn't go into any details of it because, of course, it is also tied together with the story. If you want to do the dungeon with your trusts, you can do that as well because they are trust compatible. So basically another dungeon, going to be good to add that towards the dungeon list for Shadowbringers as well, because it is not a very big one, unfortunately enough. Now, with patch 5.3, we also expected a new beast tribe. This one is going to be focused on crafters. So now we have one beast tribe, the Pixies, which is for your combat classes. We have the Kitari, which are focused on the gatherers, and then we're going to be having the dwarves, which are going to be focused on the crafters. If you still have some crafters to level, you can use those to do that. Of course, need to be level 70, I believe, in order to access them. And we can also kind of expect a currency from that beast tribe that we have to buy with the beast tribe currency, that we're going to have to use for our last crafting gear for this expansion as well. Usually, whenever the beast tribe is released, that gives you that crafting beast tribe currency and that kind of stuff. They usually have an item in the shop that is necessary in order to craft the last crafting set for the expansion, so I'm kind of expecting that one to be here as well. When it comes down to some actual battle content though, we have of course the continuation of the Yorha Dark Apocalypse raid, which is our 24-man raid, and this time around we are going to be venturing into the Puppet's Bunker. Of course, no idea what this is going to be, but the previous Yorha raid was pretty fun in my opinion. The story around it was also really cool, and then of course being able to explore the 24-man in your own later when you finish that quest and that kind of stuff was really cool. So I'm definitely looking forward to basically part 2 of this raiding series. And then one last thing when it comes down to our combat classes is that we're getting Unreal Trials. This is going to be a new difficulty, but don't get your hopes up, hardcore raiders. This is not going to be harder than ultimate raids. This is basically going to be reverse level syncing. So we have a piece of content called The Wanderer's Tales, which is a book that you can pick up once a week, and then you basically do old content, like for example A Realm Reborn primals, Heavensward primals, that kind of stuff, raids as well here or there. And then you do this mini game with your book where you collect stamps, you try to get lines and that kind of stuff. Now this is kind of going to be the same but the reverse. So normally when you do an old fight, you sync your character down to the level of that fight. So say for example you want to go fight, let's say Sophia from Heavensward, you have to sync down to level 60 in order to fight her. And right now, because of like ability pruning and that kind of stuff, syncing down is not that fun because you lose a lot of your kit as a job. What they're going to be doing with these Unreal Trials is basically the reverse. So instead of you syncing down to level 50 or level 60, they're going to be syncing the fight from level 50 to level 80, meaning that you're going to be fighting these primals as your level 80 job, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. Now, for now, they're only going to be releasing one primal per patch. As they said, Shiva's going to be the first one. And then after that patch is done, it's also only for a limited time. So it's basically going to be rotating between the different primals. So right now I think it's going to be a little bit bare bones since it's only one trial per patch. But on the other hand, it does open up a lot of new opportunities when it comes down to maybe like the level syncing system being adjusted or something like that, that we can just, instead of sync down to the content, have the content sync up to us or to our level, which is really exciting for me. So Unreal Primals, definitely looking forward to that. It's also going to be a weekly challenge, so it's basically like Wanderer's Tales. Instead of like syncing down to do the fight, to do the Wanderer's Tales, you sync up the fight, do it once, and then you can play something which is called the faux something. I'll put it on screen, but basically there's going to be a new piece of content together with that as well, so it's going to be really cool looking into that. Now, of course, last but not least, we still have a couple of other things to talk about, which are the relics. When it comes down to our Battlecraft relics, we are going to get the first upgrade step for that, where we are going to be going into the Bojan Southern Front, which is going to be a large-scale instance. Now, when you say large-scale instance, this kind of sounds true towards the Eureka content that we got in Stormblood, which of course we were kind of expecting to come back, because they did say they were going to do some kind of revamped Eureka-style content for Shadowbringers as well. So that is going to be basically our first Shadowbringers Eureka, so to speak. Together with these relics, I'm kind of curious to see how this is all going to be working out. Now, staying true to the relics, we're also getting upgrades to our Crafter and Gatherer relics, so we'll be able to upgrade those once again as well. Kind of curious to see how the level for those will be affected as well, because right now the crafter relics, if you are not melding your tools, are best in slot compared to like what we have from white scripts and crafting stuff. But since I am expecting the next patch to have that new crafted gear, quite curious to see how the item level and the stats on it and that kind of stuff will pair up with the new crafted gear that we are going to be getting. Now, staying with crafting for a little while, we still have two, or actually three new things to talk about as well. Is that Ishgardian Restoration is getting its update as well, so we have, I believe it's the third phase now of the Ishgardian Restoration, so going to be cool to see that. We have Trial Synthesis, which makes it so that you can basically try a recipe before you actually use materials to craft it. So for people that are trying to figure out macros, trying to figure out rotations, or that are new to crafting and are not sure if their stats are high enough or something to do a specific recipe, they can now do a trial synthesis to see whether or not they can actually finish the recipe before they actually gamble with actual materials that they have to go gather and purchase and that kind of stuff, which I think is really good for people getting into crafting. And then of course, for people that have already been crafting for years, they can use this trial synth to figure out their rotation before they spend the actual materials on there. So big thumbs up for me. And then last but not least, we are getting a new custom delivery NPC as well. I believe we've had one, I think two of them for pretty much everything now. So we have two in Heavensward. Well, I guess Adrakar or whatever his name is was added later, but we have two in Heavensward, we have two in Stormblood, and we only have Kaishir in Shadowbringers. We're basically going to be getting a second one right there as well. So definitely curious to see who that is going to be and whether or not we're going to be able to get a lot of white scripts from him as well, because of course Kaishir is usually the one that you want to visit if you want the most white scripts. Curious to see how much this new custom delivery NPC is going to be giving as well. But that is pretty much a quick overview of patch 5.3. The name is also going to be Reflections in Crystal. That's kind of like the content that you can expect. Of course, this was part 1 of the live letter, so in part 2 we'll probably get some more details on certain content and the kind of stuff. They might show off some stuff like, for example, maybe the 24-man or something like that. They might show us around a little bit inside of the instance, and maybe some other stuff as well, but that will be coming in the future. I'll definitely make sure to make a video on that as well once we do get some more information on, for example, the date that is actually going to be going live and that kind of stuff, because of course that is still kind of up in the air of when exactly the patch is going to be live. But that is going to be it for me for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank my Patreons for supporting me, and I'll see you in the next one.